It is finally happening. The Buffalo Bills 53-man roster has officially been announced, and let's break it down for you guys all right here. Hello everybody, welcome to Bills Digest. I'm your host Anthony Senicar, and we are less than 1 week away from the Bills season opener against the Baltimore Ravens. There is one issue. 75% of you guys who are watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel. Subscribe, join the army here at Bills Digest. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we got you guys covered for the rest of the season. So stay in touch here at Bills Digest for all your latest Bills news. And like I said, guys, the Buffalo Bills 53-man roster has officially been announced, and I want to break it down for you guys on the offensive side of the ball today, because there is some very interesting tidbits going on. Let's start it off by looking at the official depth chart. Obviously, at quarterback, you got the reigning MVP in Josh Allen. Mitch Trubisky wins that backup job over Mike White. And if you guys have watched Hard Knocks, you saw GM Brandon Beane talk about how he has seen a big step up from Mitch from last year to this year. He said there's more confidence, so he won the job over Mike White. Moving on over to the running back room, you got Jimbo James Cook off his freshly signed new contract as your number one back, quote unquote. Number two, you got second-year Ray Davis, who could look to make a big step. And then obviously you got what Josh Allen describes as the best third down running back in the league in Ty Johnson rounding out your running back room. Next, you got the fullback / tight end / running back / the Swiss Army knife in Reggie Gilliam, a marquee player to this team, is an unsung hero on this team. Then you move on to the offensive line, where you do not have any much change. You started off from going left to right. You got the Snowman, Dion Dawkins, as your starting left tackle. You got David Edwards at your left guard. You got Connor McGovern as your center. You have O'Cyrus Torrence as your right guard. And you got Spencer Brown at right tackle. You got Alec Anderson kind of as your utility guy who moves around. And you got Chase Lundett as a rookie, kind of a backup right tackle, another guy that the Bills are developing. And then you also have Ryan Vandermark as another backup just for that of Dion Dawkins. Now, where it gets very interesting in the talk of camp, talk of the offseason, was what the Bills were going to do at receiver. And this is what the receiver room looks like. Let's rewind it back to a year ago. What happened? The Bills trade Stephon Diggs to Houston. They draft Keon Coleman with a second-round pick. They sign Mac Hollins. They sign Curtis Samuel. And then mid-season, they trade for Amari Cooper because the receiver room that they had at the start of the season, that of Mac Hollins, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and Khalil Shakir, they needed another piece, so they trade for Amari Cooper mid-season. Kind of works out, kind of doesn't really work out. What do the Bills do? They revamp that receiver room this offseason, and they bring in a bunch of fresh faces, starting off with the Canadian Joshua Palmer. Then they also bring in that of Elijah Moore, who also makes the team. And they got Keon on his second year now. They got Khalil Shakir after the big contract. They have Curtis Samuel, who was injured, but it was a $7 million cap hit. He's got to make the team. And then you guys got the good story of training camp, that of Terrell Shavers, the second year pro, who splashed last year in the Broncos game with that big receiving touchdown. He makes the team. And there was a very key point to how the Bills wanted to attack this offseason by bringing in these players, and that was the lack of separation. Taking a look, you got, I know it looks a little small, but look where you got Keon Coleman in his separation, very far end at the league. Then you see the new signings there in Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer. Joshua Palmer, you kind of got going up a bit, so you're getting some good separation. Elijah Moore is kind of middle of the pack. But everybody else from last year is near the right side of this graph, which you don't want to be. You want to be near the middle or near the right or top. And what do the Bills do? They go and get Elijah Moore, who's a separator and a man beater. They go in, or a man beater and kind of a zone beater. You get Joshua Palmer, who is very good at man beating. We will get more into this receiver room, but let's look at what the starting lineup will look like come Baltimore Ravens day. You got Keon on the outside with Joshua Palmer on the other outside. You got Khalil Shakir in the slot. Like I said, you got Jimbo, you got Kincaid, you got the usual suspects at D-line, or at O-line, sorry, and you got the MVP at quarterback. But let's talk about this receiver room, because this is what I really want to get into the nitty-gritty. Like I said previously, the Bills focused on bringing in guys who are separators and who can beat man coverage, as the Bills struggled with that a ton. What do? Well, they bring in that of Joshua Palmer, who formerly of the LA Chargers, a guy who can beat man, who has gotten a ton of snaps as a second and third option on that Chargers team. Someone who is a bigger body at 6'2", someone who can go and get the deep ball when need be, take the top off the defense, and let the likes of a Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid work the middle of the field and the underneath stuff. What do they also do? Well, they go and get Elijah Moore from the Cleveland Browns. Has not a big splashy training camp, kind of a later free agency signing. Guys thought he was going to have a splashy training camp. There was debates on if he was even going to make this team. Elijah Moore ends up making this team. And, well, the numbers are there. He is kind of a Khalil Shakir backup, but someone who can play inside and outside. Came from the Cleveland Browns last year, where he's never really had a good starting quarterback in Cleveland, and on his team previous that with the New York Jets, where he had Zach Wilson. He was an 1,000-yard receiver with the Jets, got shipped off to Cleveland. Cleveland had a carousel of quarterbacks. They thought they had with Deshaun Watson. That obviously didn't work out. Had Joe Flacco. He's never had that number one receiver. And in this everybody eats team, I think it's insurance for Shakir, who has had a bit of injury history in the past. And let's not forget, he missed a few games last year, and he was kind of playing hobbled all season. I think bringing Elijah Moore, someone who can play that Khalil Shakir role if Shakir is hurt, as well as someone who can play outside, and just taking a flyer with someone who's never really had a number one quarterback, and see what he can do in this in this Joshua Allen in this Josh Allen offense. On top of that, you got Keon Coleman in his second year. This is a player who is going to hopefully take that next step. Like I spoke previously, he was a guy who lacked separation last year. Kind of came onto it mid-season in that Seattle game with 2 touchdowns. Gets hurt by Jordan Poyer when he takes the crown to his hand. Never really gets back into it. If you look at how the season went, it was just a slow progression of going down. He was going up. He got hurt, and it's kind of took him away from this offense as a whole. He has the tools to be a very good receiver in this league. At 6'3", a guy who can win one-on-one balls, great contested catches. He's shown some great poise with a lot of those catches last year. Let's not forget the Seattle game, the helmet catch against Tyreek Woolen, which is one of the better corners in the league. He did get beat in the previous play. Josh trusts him enough to go back to him again. He makes a phenomenal catch. And I think to really get this offense to click and to what, quote unquote, take the next step. I mean, the Bills are averaging 30 points a game last year. But if you want to take that next step, if this receiver room works out as good as the Bills think it can, this can be a all-time offense. You're going to have Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid working the underneath and the middle stuff. You're going to have Josh Palmer, who can work the outside stuff. You can have Keon Coleman now in a role to develop into that number one receiver, which I think the Bills kind of pushed him in to be a number one way too quickly last year. That's why they brought in Amari Cooper last year mid-season, because they realized Mac Hollins is not someone who you can kind of teams are not going to respect Mac Hollins the same way they will respect that of Amari Cooper, and it kind of takes the double teams off Keon and let Keon develop. Now I think you're going to have so many options to pass this football. Jimbo out of the backfield, Kincaid, like I said, Khalil Shakir, like I said, Keon, you're going to have a Joshua Palmer, you're going to have Curtis Samuel, like I talked about, who again, this is a make or break year for that of Curtis Samuel. He was injured again this offseason. Didn't get a lot of reps in training camp last season. He had the turf toe, which is a big injury. The Bills paid a pretty penny for Curtis Samuel. He is a good gadget guy, someone who I thought was really going to thrive in this offense. We will see how this year goes. I think Joe Brady has a stable of options for Josh, and I think Josh has so many weapons at his disposal that this everybody eats mentality. This is where we're going to fully see that everybody eats mentality go at full force, and hopefully the Bills made a right bet bringing in a bunch of B and C receivers instead of having one A receiver and then a bunch of C's and maybe one B. Now they have multiple B's, a few C's, and hopefully a B who can turn into an A in that of Keon Coleman. We will see how the season goes, but that is what I want to talk about today. I think this receiver group is going to be the key to unlocking this Bills offense completely. Let me know your thoughts below, guys. What's your guys' expectations for this Bills receiver room? Do you think Keon's going to take that next step? Do you think Khalil Shakir is still going to be one of the best slot guys in the league like he was last year? Do you think Joshua Palmer will be a good outside receiver for us? And do you think Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel are going to have an impact on this team? And hey, even that of Terrell Shavers, who showed flashes last year. I think having another big body guy, the Bills concocted this team to have backups for every position and every kind of build they have. Keon, his backup, Terrell Shavers. Khalil Shakir, his backup, Elijah Moore. Joshua Palmer, his backup, that of Curtis Samuel. And again, I think the Bills really built a very good receiving room. But let me know your thoughts below, guys. What do you guys think? What are you guys expecting from this Bills offense this season? Do you think 30 points a game is doable again? Or do you think there's going to be a slight regression? Or do you think this might be an all-time offense based off how the team is built? Let me know your thoughts below, guys. I'd love to hear from you guys. As always, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers here, so every little bit helps. Subscribe, join the channel, join the army here at Bills Digest to stay informed with all your latest Bills news, because we got you guys covered. We're almost on Ravens, Bills, opening day, Sunday Night Football. So subscribe, stay in touch, stay informed, and as always, guys, go Bills.